All right. Hello, everybody. So, welcome back to another day of this Becoming Superconductors of Love Summit. And we're here today with Heather Ensworth. So, Heather is our person of the day. And today, what we're really going to be dropping into with Heather is the incredibly beautiful and powerful dance going on right now with Venus and Neptune, and their role, Heather's perspective on their roles with this catapulting of ourselves into beings of love, which is what we ultimately are in this time. And yeah, so today we're basically, really love to invite you to take a deep breath and to come into this Neptunian and Venusian parts of ourselves and to really feel what comes alive in this conversation, what comes alive in you over this day or whenever you happen to be listening to this talk. And yeah, there's so many ways this conversation can go, and I'm super, super, super excited about it. So honored and happy to have you here, Heather. And thank you. Thank you for being part of this collective movement that we're all in this moment.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you for the profound work that you're doing and this summit. And I think this is such a critical summit and time to be supporting us all in this profound transition that we're in into these new ways of being and into the Aquarian age. So thank you.
Mm, yes. For anybody who does not know Heather, I feel like you don't need an introduction, but I will just say Heather is, how do I describe you? Heather is, I would say, one of my absolute top mentor friends, soul friend. And Heather, is a very pivotal person in my own life. So it's just very dear to me that you're here. Um, and on a practical level, Heather is a psychologist who has specialized in trauma treatment and among other things, and also is obviously an astrologer. Um, and Heather really specializes in a number of things, including weaving together how can we be in this pivotal moment on our planet? How can we be in tune with the cosmos and with Gaia and with ourselves and with our soul selves? And how can we do that in a way that is integrated and safe on an emotional level? And yeah, I'll let you speak for yourself, but that's part of how I would sum up my perspective on the work you do and who you are. And yeah, just you are a very dear person and impact many, many people, including me. So
Mm,
thank you, thank you,
thank you,
thank you.
Martha. Thank you. And it's great to be a part of this summit and a part of this, the way in which you and I are supporting this profound shift on the planet. And part of what you're talking about too is I think you and I, with our backgrounds in therapy, are very aware of the way in which, as we're clearing our trauma from the past, clearing, our energy fields, we can more rapidly move into this time of ascending consciousness that we're being called into.
Yeah.
And as we launch into this, I just want to take a moment to thank the energies of the earth and the sky and Venus and Neptune and all the planets and stars for how they're guiding us and supporting us through this time of rebirth into new ways of being.
Yes. I second that. So yeah. Oh. If you had something you want, I can ask you a question or you could go wherever you were about to go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, so as you were feeling into, asked you to be part of the summit and you said yes, and then you're feeling into what you're feeling really called to speak to, what came through for you was this Venus dance and also its relationship with Neptune. And you mentioned, Venus and Neptune being different octaves of love in various ways. But if we take a deep breath and just come into this moment of mid-March 2025, um, and we're in this sacred time together. I mean, true, it just feels like such a sacred part of 2025. Any moment is sacred, but this March of 2025 feels especially sacred somehow, right? First of all, I would love to know, what is that for you? Number two, I have guesses about your answer on that, but I would love to hear your answer. Um, and then number two, why Venus and Neptune? And yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, great questions. So let me just back up a minute to say I think these beginning few months of 2025 are so profound. And as you know, some of my strong interest is in the precessional cycle, this 24,000 years of our evolution of consciousness as humanity. And this is such a critical time in that cycle, in that we are moving into the age of Aquarius. We're at the end of one precessional cycle, the beginning of a new one. And at the end of March, we're moving out of the time from the Hindu Yuga cycle, its version of the precessional cycle, that is the Kali Yuga, is that time of our forgetting, our time of being in our over identification with separation from the earth, from cosmic consciousness, that time of forgetting. So the end of March, the end of the Kali Yuga, is catapulting us into this time of ascending consciousness. And I think it's absolutely extraordinary that we really moved into the depths of the Kali Yuga and the time of disconnection and forgetting as we moved into the age of Aries. And we got into an out of balanced relationship with Mars that led into the patriarchal paradigms, the power over, the way in which Mars became about control, conquest, competition, not its true meaning, which was how do we identify our own individuality and our gifts to bring them out in service to others. So we're coming out of the end of this Kali Yuga, this 5 to 6 thousand year period of imbalance with Mars, and the way in which in the patriarchal period, the wisdom and energies of the sacred feminine, Venus, got also distorted and suppressed. So as we're moving into 2025, in January, we've been experiencing the profound transformation of Mars to allow Mars to heal. We've been experiencing that Mars-Pluto opposition. Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, calling our expression of Mars from that out of balanced ego expression of Mars into how do we align our personal will with divine will. And Mars went through all of its transformation with the exact Pluto opposition January 3rd, then its transformational time opposite the sun on January 15th. And now, March, we're moving into the transformation of Venus and the healing of Venus. So, in such a profound way, I think the cosmos and the earth are guiding us through healing that PTSD, healing those out of balanced expressions of Mars and Venus to guide us into this new age, guide us in to being able to move into higher consciousness and back into unity consciousness, back into living in alignment with our soul selves and in alignment with love and peace and how we can be in right relationship with each other and all of life. So it's just extraordinary that these transformational moments for Mars and Venus are coming within these first few months of 2025. And in the context of these profound larger shifts that we're in. So that's why I really wanted to explore more and talk more about the shifts that are happening with Venus and how that then correlates with Neptune and Neptune's movement into Aries.
Yeah, amazing. So many threads. So many things. And I also love it. This just dawned on me for the first time just now that the third of those Mars Pluto oppositions will be in April, right? So after the Venusian things, the Venusian journey you're about to describe with us. So we've already experienced the first two Mars Pluto oppositions. So this really powerful, mm, energetic supporting us to transform our relationship to Mars and the masculine and all of that, and power and divine will and personal will and all of what you just mentioned. And then we have this Venusian journey, and then we come back to the third and final Pluto Mars opposition.
Yes, and how extraordinary that Pluto's being transformed in its relationship. I mean, Mars is being transformed in its relationship with Pluto to come back into balance, to heal, to come back into alignment with cosmic consciousness. Then Venus is in its profound time of transformation to come into merger with Neptune, its higher octave, so that our human ability to love is now aligned with divine love.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay. Hmm. That's exquisite. And that we can't, it's really that we can't, this is also what's just dawning on me for the very first time, that it's wonderful to be transforming our relationship to, let's say, Mars or the masculine, and it's wonderful to transform our relationship to the divine feminine. But what's even better is that we're doing both at, within the same period, general period of time.
Exactly. And we all have the sacred masculine and sacred feminine within us. So
Yes.
this is in such a powerful, accelerated way, helping us to clear the ways they have been out of balance, how to heal that within ourselves, to bring them back into harmony with each other, to be emerging in these new ways of being that allow us to bring that energy of love and harmony and peace into the world to support the healing of the world.
Mm, 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 mm.
So, if I can, I'd like to show you the chart of that transformational time for Venus and then talk about how it connects with these
Yes.
shifts with Neptune.
Yes, please.
So, what's extraordinary is Venus in its cycle has a 584-day cycle in its movement from evening star into its inferior conjunction with the sun, and then it emerges as a morning star. Then it disappears behind the sun in its superior conjunction back into being an evening star. And this is the moment when Venus on March 22nd or March 23rd, depending on where you are on the globe, Venus will be exactly conjunct the sun at 2 degrees of Aries in its inferior conjunction. This is in the Venus cycle its transformational moment. And then when it emerges as a morning star, it is at its brightest. Just as Mars, in its transformational moment in its cycle with the sun, is when it's opposite the sun and at its brightest, this is Venus's transformational moment. And the oldest known myth we have about the Venus cycle is the myth of Inanna, her journey as Queen of Heaven, as an evening star, her realizing she needs to reclaim lost parts of herself and reconnect with her sister Ereshkigal, who is now goddess of the underworld, who is holding the trauma done to the sacred feminine.
Mm,
Ereshkigal was the great grain goddess who ends up being raped, abused, and then banished into the underworld. This myth comes to us as we're moving out of the age of Taurus into the age of Aries, into the suppression of the sacred feminine and the split in the great goddess into that part of the great goddess that is about life, and then this part of the great goddess that becomes the queen of the underworld. So Venus is trying to be in her own healing process as she's in this inferior conjunction with the sun and reconnect with the lost parts of herself, with those parts of her energy as the great goddess that have been split off and are carried now in Ereshkigal. But it is the time for Venus of going through this death rebirth to then emerge from the underworld, followed by the spirits of the underworld, bringing that out into the world. That becomes the overtone of her cycle for that next full cycle. So it is really incredible that here, right after the equinox, we have Venus at her time of most transformation, and it's at 2 degrees of Aries, and the meaning of the Sabian symbol for that degree is about the importance of seeing ourselves in the context of our relationships with others. It
Mm.
is, I think, and Venus in Aries, Venus in Mars sign. How do we work that trauma from the age of Aries? How it's thrown Mars out of balance, thrown Venus out of balance, suppressed aspects of the sacred feminine. Venus is trying to reclaim that to be resurrected in a new way. And then what's amazing is she will emerge into view on March 30th when she's
Mm.
13 degrees from the sun. This is right after we've had the solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. And now Venus is emerging in her brightness as a morning star. She will be conjunct Mercury. Neptune has now just moved into Aries.
Same day. Same day.
Same day. Venus will be exactly conjunct the North Node and also conjunct Saturn in Pisces. So you've got all this energy in Pisces, but Venus now conjunct the North Node. She's emerging out of this transformation with the energy of Mars and Aries into the light, in the carrying the energy of Pisces to call us into that connection with Neptune, Pisces, the higher octave of Venus, how our love and ways of being in relationship with each other can now be transformed by this higher octave of Venus, our connection with the love of cosmic consciousness that guides us into unity consciousness. So, and now with Neptune moving into Aries, marking this transformation into a new world, new ways of being, it's so emphasizing this importance of Neptune and its association with Pisces, and how it's now also dissolving the out of balanced Aries energy to guide us into this Aquarian age in a new way with a more balanced relationship with Mars and Venus, the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine.
Can I say two things? This is amazing. So the on March 22nd, the day when Venus will be conjunct the sun, I just also want to point out that's basically the midpoint between the two eclipses, right? Because the first eclipse is March 13, 14, this, and then the solar eclipse is March 29th. So that Venus Sun conjunction happens right in between the two eclipses that we're having. And this day of March 30th, when Venus then emerges and becomes visible for the first time, is is the day we're having our closing ceremony. So that's
Perfect.
amazing, right? It's like, wow. Uh,
Ancient cultures knew that was such a profound time when
mm,
Venus first appears as a morning star, bringing that energy of transformation out of the underworld.
Wow. And as you pointed out, I don't think you said it while we were recording, but you said it before we were recording that she'll be there with Mercury, who you can see as Ninshabar. And right, do you want to say anything about that? Um,
So in the myth of Inanna, and let me just pull out for a minute. In the myth of Inanna, it's so profound because this is the older version of the Demeter Persephone story.
Mhm.
And what I love about the myth of Inanna coming out of the age of Taurus, when the sacred feminine was still honored, is that Inanna doesn't get abducted into the underworld like Persephone. Inanna hears the call of the great below and realizes I need to heal and recover these lost parts of myself, the sacred feminine that's been banished and buried and suppressed. So she sets forth consciously to do that healing process, to reintegrate these lost parts of herself. But she realizes that she needs to do it with support.
Yeah.
So she asks her friend and handmaiden, Ninshabar, go with me, keep watch. If I don't return in 3 days, get help.
Mm.
And I think it's such an important reminder to us that when we're in that journey of healing, deep work in the underworld, transformation, we need someone holding the thread for us. We need someone who's there to support us. And I think it's just beautiful that Ninshabar is Mercury.
Mhm.
And as Venus is now emerging from the underworld at the end of March, at the end of the Kali Yuga, the sacred feminine is arising with Ninshabar right there to support her and guide her.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
Saturn, she's conjunct Saturn, who in the myth of Inanna is Enki,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
wise one, the god of the sweet waters who moves between the worlds and is the one Ninshabar goes to for help,
Yeah.
to send the earth creatures to help Inanna revise and be resurrected to emerge as a morning star. So this is just exquisite.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Hmm. So when you, so I'm thinking about the closing ceremony that we are gonna all, everybody welcome, please come live on March 30th. Also, it'll be recorded, and so if you're even hearing this later, go back and listen to the recording of it. But if you're imagining that day, March 30th, right? This is the first moment in what? How long? How how long since Neptune has been in Aries? Long time. A long time, any long, long, long time. So this will be the first moment that Neptune is going to be entering Aries is on March 30th. And and as we know, in 2025, Neptune will spend a chunk of months in Aries, but then it'll go back into Pisces, right? So it's the first, it's its first sort of little taster in there, or our little taster of it, um, and in our lifetimes. And then it's in early 2026 when Neptune finally fully enters Aries and Saturn fully enters Aries. And then Saturn and Neptune will conjunct on February 20th, 2026 at 0 degrees of Aries. Such a significant thing. Um, so on this day, March 30th, that's the first moment that it's like Neptune's taking that first little step into that 0 degrees of Aries point. Saturn will enter that point as well in 2025, but not for a couple of months. So it's following behind. Um, and so Neptune takes that step just as Venus rises as a morning star, right? And the day before that, on the 29th, the day of the solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. We're talking about this with Gary Caton actually in his talk. Uh, Mercury has been Venus and Mercury both go retrograde in Aries, and Mercury passes back into Pisces on on the day of the solar eclipse, sort of hands the baton to Neptune, and then Neptune crosses into Aries. So it's like Ninshabar goes back into Pisces, goes, here you go, Neptune. Neptune crosses into that zero Aries point. Um, Venus rises as a morning star, and there we are, right?
Well, and what's so extraordinary, like you and I were talking about before the recording, is the meaning of 0 degrees of Aries
Yes.
is about a woman rising out of the ocean and a seal rises up and embraces her, which I think, the sapient symbols are about our spiritual journey and our own evolution of consciousness. And I think the deeper meaning of that degree is the return of the energy of the sacred feminine, our connection with the consciousness of the waters and the oceans of our earth, and the seal really showing that integration, reintegration of our connection with unity consciousness and coming back into love and connection with the sacredness of the life of the earth and all that is. And at that time, Venus emerges into view. She will be at 27 degrees of Pisces. The meaning of that, the Sabian symbol, the image is a fertile garden under a full moon. It's like we're
Oh,
returning to that garden of peace, of harmony, of the fullness of the sacred feminine, of our connection with all of life. And then Venus will be at that time conjunct the North Node in Pisces, guiding us all back in to that connection with our soul selves and unity consciousness. And Venus will be in a dance back and forth conjunct the North Node until I believe it's the end of April. Um, yes, until April 29th. And then April 30th, Venus goes into Aries. But it's so powerful that we're being guided in how to honor that return of the sacred feminine now in a healed, integrated, more whole way to guide us in reintegrating the transformed energy of Mars and Venus to be more back in balance and harmony within ourselves to emanate that out into the world. And as Venus emerges as the morning star at 27 degrees of Pisces, she will be trining Mars at
oh.
23 degrees of Cancer.
So I would love to talk a little bit more about the what you mentioned about the integration of Inanna and Ereshkigal. That be okay? This because there's something there that's feeling really, really key, and I think maybe this might be me speaking personally, but I think as a collective, I don't know if we've given attention to that really. I haven't until recently in my own life, actually. So it's kind of uncanny what you're bringing up. Ha have you seen the movie Wicked?
No, no, I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, this is fascinating. So last week I went to the movie theater for the first time in 13 years, and I took my 12-year-old, who I was pregnant with her the last time I went to the movie theater. Okay, 13 years ago, and but I don't know why. I just felt like I really wanted to take her to this movie for some reason, and we went to go see Wicked, and I long story short, I sobbed through that entire movie because what I'm recognizing now as you're talking, that movie essentially is the Inanna, well, the sort of the incredibly polarized feminine, divine feminine, right? That has been absolutely pulled apart. So for anybody who hasn't seen Wicked, the storyline essentially it's about the wicked witch of the West who is the dark witch. Like she's been ostracized. She's not wicked at all. It's like she's not evil at all. She's incredibly powerful, unbelievably powerful, but her power is neutral. It's not good or bad. Um, but she is demonized. Okay, so as we've heard this story many times in all kinds of different ways, including Ereshkigal, right? And then so we have the in Wicked, there's the bad witch, the bad one, the one with green skin. She's depicted as African American. She's everybody's scared of her. Everybody hates, well, doesn't hate her, but anyway, you get the idea. She's ostracized in every sense. And then in comes the good witch, who is blonde and pretty and all the things, and swishes her hair perfectly, and I mean, super stereotyped. But actually, I loved this movie because I sat there sobbing because I absolutely identify, of course, with the bad witch, right? That not that I've been ostracized, but the sense of I think this is true for a lot of us. I know in my own most recent past life that I can remember, I was that ostracized witch, if you want to call it that. And I think in my own journey of all of these, the Mars Pluto transits and the all of what's going on, I didn't even realize that there's this unintegrated part of me as the Ereshkigal, basically, right? Um, and it's feeling like a key component. Again, I could be speaking just for myself, but I don't think so. I think it's more of a universal thing for probably many, many, many of us. That as I sat there watching this movie, I was sobbing because in the movie, the Ereshkigal, or the bad witch and the good witch, start out hating each other. There's a whole song called "Loathing." They sing about loathing each other, and then they become best friends. Like platonically, they fall in love, right? And so and there's this beautiful scene where they dance together. It's like they end up moving in sync with each other. They become one. It's so beautiful. It's so incredible because the good witch is over here being the ditzy blonde. Okay, so she's not actually allowed to be integrated either. And then over here is the bad witch being scary and ugly. Neither of them are happy. That's not true for either of them. And you get the idea, right? So I just think that's fascinating.
Well, what's really interesting in what you're saying is a teaching that has profoundly influenced me across the years was a teaching I was given by a Mohawk medicine woman about the four faces of the great goddess
Mm,
in its integration, in its unity. And they are in the north, the nurturing mother, opposite in the south, death mother. Those aspects of the great goddess as the creator and then destroyer. The east-west axis is the east is harmony woman, rainbow woman. The west is wild woman. And part of what's profound is in this patriarchal period, the aspects of the sacred feminine that have been affirmed and allowed are nurturing mother
yeah.
and the beautiful, accommodating, peacemaking harmony woman.
Yeah.
But those aspects of the great goddess that are death mother is that capacity to say, enough is enough. This needs to end. This is out
Yes.
of balance.
Yes.
That's Sekhmet energy or Kali. And the West is that part of us that can be really holding that power of the sacred feminine that is about our own unique self expression. It's about sacred sexuality. It's the energy of Lilith, of Eris Xena.
Yeah.
So we need to reintegrate all those facets of the sacred feminine to come into our wholeness, not only as women, but to reintegrate the balanced sacred feminine with the sacred masculine within all of us. And I think Inanna's journey to reclaim her connection with Ereshkigal was that effort to go from being split off from each other. Inanna's queen of heaven, you know, the queen of harmony and beauty in the evening sky. Ereshkigal is the one who's been traumatized, demonized, and suppressed.
Mm,
The interesting thing in the story is that in the myth of Inanna, she goes to reconnect with Ereshkigal, but Ereshkigal who's carrying all that trauma
Yeah.
and the persecution of the sacred feminine in the age of Aries, in the patriarchal period, does not welcome her with open arms to say, oh, come back, let's bond, let's be best friends. She actually lashes out at her. And that's where Inanna goes through her death rebirth. But I think some of this powerful transformation of Venus in this time of her journey into the underworld is also the healing of Ereshkigal to
Yes.
allow them to truly reunite. And there is no planetary body specifically that represents her from that myth of Inanna, but the closest we probably have is the asteroid Persephone, who's the later version of that myth and the one who gets abducted and pulled into the underworld. And amazingly enough, that asteroid at the time of Venus's emergence as a morning star is at 22 degrees of Aquarius conjunct Chericlo, the healing centaur, holding presence to help her heal.
Yeah.
So she'll be at 19 degrees of Aquarius when Venus is conjunct the sun, and then at 22 degrees of Aquarius when she emerges. But it's really showing us that we need to heal those traumatized parts of ourselves to bring them back into wholeness with who we are, to be moving into these new ways of being in an integrated way, and then able to be in that alignment with our soul selves, in harmony within ourselves, to be emanating that out into the world to support these shifts into higher consciousness and into a new world together.
Yeah. And as you and I both know from our work as therapists, working with trauma and all of that, if I think about what that means for each of us, I think in some way or another, we each have that Ereshkigal part of ourself, right? And the Inanna part of all of the parts are here. And some of us maybe identify more strongly with certain parts of that. But if there is this Ereshkigal part of us that has sort of been designated as the trauma holder, unfairly, like here you go, dump. Um, you get to hold all of that. She when she starts to awaken in us, that dark goddess part of ourselves, whatever that part of us that's been ostracized, especially if we have literally lived that, in this lifetime or other lifetimes, it can be very easy, especially if we're not being conscious about it, to want to lash out, right? And to want to externalize blame or either, to really simplify it, like we can feel like we want to lash out at the good witch, the pretty girl feminine, that overly light version of the feminine, and or we can want to blame men. We can want to blame the masculine, right, for all of it. So that desire to lash out has wisdom in it. Like it's coming from a true need of some kind. So I don't want to shut it down. And yet, what I'm curious about to hear from you is when we're in that individual and collective moment, when we really can be finding all those components of ourselves as the great goddess, etc., and the divine masculine, all of it. What are some thoughts that arise for you about how we can consciously be in this moment? Because I'm feeling like the in between the eclipses, especially when Inanna really is right there with the sun, when Venus is with the sun, it feels like it's a sacred time when we can really deeply be with that process in ourselves. So,
Well, I
any
think in
thoughts?
an ongoing way with the increasing solar flares now that we're in 2025 and the solar maximum,
Mm.
with these energies of the sun and the galactic center coming more intensely to our Earth, it is activating the Earth's crystal core to help us align more with the galactic center. It is activating those Earth ley lines to be in their harmonic convergence all year round, but it's also bringing light to whatever has been in the shadows.
Yes.
And it means whatever trauma we have, both individually and collectively, that's getting called into awareness. And I think across this transition time, it's going to be activating those unresolved issues in all of us.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful that on April 4th, as Venus has emerged as a morning star, she goes into conjunction with Nessus, time to heal the ancestral wounds from the past.
Mm.
So I do believe we're being guided to heal, to come more into that wholeness. But to me, and I've put this out on my site, I think the medicine wheel practice is so profound in terms of being a walking meditation that we can do to reclaim all these aspects of ourselves, to come to center, to come into wholeness. But part of that medicine wheel process too is supporting us as you step into the medicine wheel, step into sacred space. The first step is coming back into alignment with that memory that we are soul selves having a human experience and reclaiming our witness self. Because then we can see these feelings that are coming up, the trauma memories that are coming up, see them, hold them with compassion, and not act out on them.
Yes.
Because I think not only are we individually being called into that healing process to come back into wholeness, but so much of the trauma on the planet is our collective PTSD.
Yes.
I think part of what led into the out of balance Mars and Venus in the age of Aries was because as we were coming out of the end of the age of Taurus, there were these cataclysmic comet strikes, climate change. It led to this collective PTSD that led into a kind of survival mentality that led into that age of Aries disconnection, sense of separation from the earth and cosmos, survival of the fittest, conquer or be conquered, kill or be killed, that we've been locked into ever since. And Barbara Barbara Hand Clow's book, Awakening the Planetary Mind,
Mm.
is brilliant in talking about if we don't clear that PTSD, we will reenact it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is part of what the energies of the earth and the cosmos are trying to help us see as humanity, to awaken, to realize, okay, heal the energy of Mars, now heal the energy of Venus, heal the trauma from the past so that you don't stay in polarization, reactivity, survival mentality, so that you can heal and come back into the energy of love and unity consciousness and move into this new world, new earth together.
Yeah, exactly. And I can just put it in really simple terms that are coming to me in the sense of if um if we're feeling that pain of let's say being the Ereshkigal, the ostracized, the whatever, any version of the trauma that we personally resonate with the most, when we're in that kind of a moment, um, even just the simple act of acknowledging that the pain exists, number one, is a big deal. Number two, that it's okay. And then a key component in there for me is um again that wise self recognizing and mirroring back to me, back to us, that ultimately we are whole, right? Because I think it's that wounded part. Ultimately, I think all it really wants is to know that it's whole and to be acknowledged in its wholeness. And the anger and the lashing out, I think, is a protective. It's a desire to reclaim the power, our own power, right? Sorry, you want to say,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, you know, Martha, that those primary ways of coping with trauma, acute trauma, are fight, flight, freeze, and fawning.
yeah,
So the lashing out is an effort to protect the
yeah,
wounded part.
mm,
But part of what's powerful about the medicine wheel is when we step into that connection with our witness self, then we don't stay mired in the trauma and the story of what's happened. We can
yes,
see it. And then as we work the medicine wheel, we are holding with compassion those wounded parts of ourselves. This is a lot of what my book with Christina Lee, From Trauma to Freedom, is about.
yes,
Then what those wounded parts need most is to feel seen and heard and held and supported with compassion. Then they can heal. Then they can reintegrate with our sense of self. And as we walk the medicine wheel, we realize we're coming into awareness of all those parts of ourselves that are part of the wheel. But then when we come into center, we realize ultimately we're aligned with that soul self that's always been whole
yeah,
and is eternal and is deeply connected to the healing energy of the earth and the galactic center, our source,
yeah,
and is never separate,
mhm,
is never traumatized. So then we can hold that center and continue to help heal and integrate those lost parts of ourselves.
mm,
That enables us then to move forward in a whole integrated way and to really be integrated in emanating that energy into the world to support the healing of our broken world and our traumatized world. And there's so much trauma in the world right now. And I think as we take that individual responsibility to heal, then we can emanate that love and peace into the collective consciousness.
yeah,
But on a practical level,
mm,
as we're negotiating that process, it doesn't mean we'll be able to heal our relationships with all of those that that we've been, that we've had ruptures in our relationships or there's been trauma in the relationships. I think it's significant as this Venus cycle
mm,
at the end of March shows us, as Venus is emerging from the underworld, she's supported by
yeah,
Ninshama, her friend. She's supported by Saturn, who is there helping her revive and return. And if you think of Persephone as Ereshkigal, they're not coming into conjunction with each other. She's being healed and held by Chericlo.
oh,
So sometimes we need to honor that we're all in our own journeys and we need to take responsibility for our own healing and transformational process and trust that if we're not able to heal that trauma or rupture in a relationship, that that person can be in their own healing journey.
mm,
But we can then honor what we need to do to come into wholeness, to be open to that reconciliation with others, but really take responsibility for our own journey.
so perfect, Heather. Wow. Yes. So, anything that we haven't said? Anything? So, were there other threads that you wanted to bring in here? That feels amazing.
I would just like to say, I mean, it's so profound, this shift that we're in. And I think this ending of the Kali Yuga is opening. As you said before we got on the recording, it is like we're going through this rebirth as humanity. And this is the time where we're coming out into the light.
Yeah.
We're beginning to see these new ways of being that we're being called into. And I love that that solar eclipse that happens just before Venus emerges is at 9 degrees of Aries, a person teaching new forms to old symbols. We're so being guided into a new world together. And I think it's exquisite and such a sign of the love and wisdom of the cosmos that it's guiding us through this step by step transformation of Mars, transformation of Venus, emergence with Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries into new forms, new ways of being. And I think we need to trust that, hold on to that in the midst of the storminess and turbulence in our world, still caught in trauma, still caught in polarization and these out of balanced energies. If we realize with the end of the Kali Yuga that those out of balanced forms, those destructive power over paradigms are dying, we can hold this again, be in the center of the medicine wheel, holding our alignment with our soul selves and with this beautiful energy coming to us from the earth and cosmic consciousness saying we're on a path of healing. Trust that, feel the support of that, hold that, ground that energy in the collective consciousness to support the healing of the world.
Mm. And I'll throw in one other thing that's coming to me. That's this is so good. Wow. Okay. So yes, I think another component of what's going on right now as we're emerging into, the light and these new ways and co-creating the new earth. Okay, as we are healing and integrating these wounded parts of our own inner feminine and our own inner masculine, all of it, that healing is important and wonderful in and of itself, certainly. But what I'm also this is for me personally, okay, but again, I think this is collective, so I'll name it. I think in that healing also serves, it's a key component of what will then allow us to come, because all of this is really about our own power, okay? So there's and other things, but especially the power part is just so key here. Um, so each of us are a divine puzzle piece of what this new earth is and what we are. We are here, each of us, for a reason, right? And when we undo all these trauma parts of us and hold it in wholeness and all of that, what I feel unlocking in me, like when I address that Ereshkigal part of myself, okay, well, what's there? And I'll be a little bit personal, but again, in service of hopefully, maybe this will resonate for people. I know for myself that I am needed to step out in a much bigger way. Okay. So, but if I think to my most recent past life and most of my past lives, they all have been me as these ostracized healer, very, very powerful healer, bad witch type, but not bad at all, actually, incredibly, beautifully powerful and healing. Okay, but pushed to the side, ostracized, all of it. So for me, the I'm being pushed to come out much more publicly, in a much bigger way. My role is shifting, right? Like I'm being asked to radically shift the way I'm engaging with the world. So then what's coming up through my own being, totally, like, very actually kind of shocking me that this is even a thing, is that Ereshkigal self saying, oh my God, no, but if you really show your power, if you really step into who you really are, you're going to be beaten. You're going to be thrown to the side of the village. You know, you're going to be basically used for your power. So it's really, really scary. I think for each of us in many, many ways. I hear this from so many different people in all different iterations. It has not been safe. It has not been safe on this planet to fully step into who we are, to fully be the integrated, pure power of who we actually are, right? We have not been safe to do that. But now we are, and we have to do it. Like, this is really serious business. As my guides say to me, this is like, you need to do this. Okay, but then the Ereshkigal self in me somehow needs to grieve and cry and come back into, be held to get it, that she really is safe and she is going to be loved and cherished for who she really truly is, and she's all the things, right? So that's just dawning on me as we're stepping into this, coming out of the Kali Yuga, stepping into the new earth, into the new, this birth that we're emerging from. Yeah, we have, it's just extra, extra, extra important. It's not a luxury item, you know. It's like,
Well, and I think what you're saying is it is so key that we really honor the profound time of healing and transformation and awakening that we're in, because
yeah,
we've been in 6,000 years of trauma on the
yes,
planet.
for real.
Men, women, all of us, the
Hmm.
earth.
Yep, the earth itself, the earth itself.
And I think as we're coming out of that, it's not only how do we heal that individual trauma, but how do we also support the earth in her healing
Yeah,
and grieve
yeah,
the trauma that we've been through.
yeah,
But I think that it's really about our emerging from this time of darkness and time of trauma into the light of awareness and allowing ourselves to feel all that we feel as we're coming out of that. And tied in with what you're saying, in my readings, so much of the focus now, and part of my approach is evolutionary astrology, which I know is yours also. So much of the readings are connected with clearing the past life trauma, clearing that karma, clearing those ways that the pain and trauma and persecution of the past has constricted us and disabled us. Because then we can move into this light of awakening and healing and increasing consciousness to I would not label it as power, but empowerment
yes, there we go.
in
Mhm.
being aligned with our soul selves. And really the energy of the Aquarian age, as I love to say, is the sovereignty of the self in the sanctity of community in unity with conscious cosmic consciousness. So
Yeah,
it's about reclaiming we are each a fractal expression of cosmic consciousness with unique gifts that no one else has.
yes,
And as we heal this Mars and Venus energy, which are healing the solar plexus, the third chakra, the heart, then we can align with the uniqueness of who we each are, that
yeah,
sovereignty of self, to bring that out in service to community, to be an expression of our soul self in alignment with cosmic consciousness.
exactly.
And then we're empowered within ourselves
Mhm.
and in alignment with that power with and for each other instead of power over.
Yeah, incredible, Heather. I think I just changed. I internally just changed through that hour together. It's like, that was so. Mm, mm.
We're so being guided, we're so being supported, and step by step
Yeah,
shown how to move through this transition and transformation in a conscious way.
yeah. I mean, it's just not a coincidence. The sequence of events, you know, the cosmic choreography is
Cosmic dance.
exquisite, incredible. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm, thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So to close, hmm, first of all, anything you want to share about you, anything you want to invite people into, clearly your YouTube channel, but anything else you want to say, feel free to share that. And then I would love for us to close, if is there something as we send everybody into this day and into the rest of the summit and into the beyond, you know, is there some way you feel called to close with a prayer or with anything? Just go for it.
Yeah, let me close with just a brief meditation to help us align with these energies.
Awesome.
Okay. We give thanks to the energies of the earth and the sky for guiding us in this profound time. And may we each feel supported in standing in the center of that medicine wheel and feeling our energy connect down to the core of the earth and up through our bodies, through our crown chakra to the galactic center. To know that we are held in that alignment of the earth and sky, that we are being guided and supported in this time of transition and transformation. And may we find that alignment with our soul selves to align with those energies of the earth and of the cosmos, to transmute into beings of light and love and peace, to support our own healing and the healing of the world. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Thank you so, 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 so much.
Thank you.
Hmm.